Hey you guys, in this video we're going to draw poppy flowers. I hope you're going to follow along with me. It's going to be a lot of fun. Here's what our poppy flower drawing is going to look like, all finished. I also wanted to show you the art supplies that I've picked out so that you can gather these up and get ready to do the drawing. First, we're using our Canson marker paper to draw on. That's because we're using alcohol-based markers. This is our Art for Kids hub set, and if you have the same set, you can use the same colors. First, we're using 15 red. This is our main first layer. Then we have a darker red, number 2. Then we have 3 greens. Wait a minute, no, we only have 2 greens. 174 is a light green for our first layer, and then 48 is the darker green. Then we have 4 colored pencils, pink, red, then we have a darker red and black. And if you have Prismacolor colored pencils and you want to use the same reds, the dark red is crimson red, and the regular red, or the main red, is Scarlet Lake. This is what we're first going to draw with. Let's first use our red colored pencil to draw the main shapes of our flower. And we're going to start with one. We'll go through each of the steps one by one, and then we can use those same steps for all of the other flowers. Let's start by drawing the center. We're going to draw a little oval shape. And you can put this anywhere on your page. It doesn't have to be in the same place. I also have it tipped so it's diagonal. Then we can also draw a little messy, bumpy line around the outside. I think these are called the stamen. Then we're going to draw the petals coming out. So first we could draw one petal that comes out on the back, and then we'll draw bumpy lines for the top of the petal and then come back in. Then we're going to draw this coming around to the other side. So we can draw another one that's overlapping behind that first one, and then we can draw it connecting back in. And then on this one, we're going to draw the top of the petal here, and then we can draw the bottom of the petal coming around and connecting. And then we could also draw another one to fill in this little space. Oh, let's add another layer too. So we can draw another petal right here. I'm going to stop here and maybe we can add another one that's overlapping behind it. I think the fun thing about drawing flowers is that you really want it to look natural, and it's okay if you change each of the petals. It doesn't have to be the exact same. The next time you draw another flower, you can change these petals. You don't want all of your flowers to look exactly the same. Now there's the main shapes for our first poppy. We could draw another one. Let's draw it down here, and let's just repeat the same steps. We could draw it a little bit different and tip the other way. So I'm going to draw the oval first, and then maybe we'll draw the rest of the stamen after we draw some of the petals. So let's draw these petals coming up closer to the center. So we could imagine that we're looking more at a side view of our poppy flower. So there's one petal, and then let's draw another one that's in front. We'll draw it continuing this way, and we can draw the bumpy top of the petal. And now let's draw the rest of the stamen, this part that's going around. Draw the bumpy parts coming down. And now let's draw the petal that's on the back, connecting in, and one more right here. And now let's draw that second row of petals. This one's going to be kind of big, coming across and then connecting in. Let's add another one right here too. So if you want, you can pause the video and take extra time to change your flowers. You could add a lot. You could cover your whole page if you want. I'm going to leave it just like this, or we could add a few buds or flowers that haven't opened all the way. So let's just draw an oval shape. Then we could draw the little green leaves that first covered up the bud. I think these are called sepals. I'm not sure. I always get them mixed up. I have to look them up. We could add another one here, and maybe we have more of those green leaves down at the bottom, and one more, wherever we want to put it. I'm going to put it over here. And we could also add little lines for the petals. These might disappear when we use our marker. That's okay, we'll add them back in. Now with our red pencil, we could continue adding the stems and also the leaves. If you want, you could change to a green pencil. I'm going to keep it red, just for fun. So we're going to start here. We can just draw these coming down and really draw them any way you want. This one's going to come through here And this one curving around. That's looking really cool. Now let's add some leaves, and maybe just a couple leaves. I'm gonna draw the center of the leaf coming out to the side. And then we're gonna draw the first leaf shape coming around the center. I'm gonna draw it coming up like this. We're gonna draw little curvy lines. Then we'll come back up. It's almost like we're making little paint splats, or like you dropped paint and it's dripping. So we got these little shapes coming out from the leaf. There, that looks really cool. Let's add another one going this way. We can draw it maybe right here. I'm gonna draw it coming down this way, crossing over, and then we're gonna do the same thing. So I know I'm going kind of fast on this part, but you can pause it, take that extra time to add your leaf shapes. Kind of fun to draw because you can just do whatever you want. You don't have to follow my exact lines. And then let's add one more. This one I'm gonna keep kind of close to the stems, and then we'll draw it spreading out a little bit further on each side. So I'm gonna draw it coming around, and then coming to a point more here, and then back out and get wider towards the base, and then back in. And there we go. There's all of the main shapes using our pencil, one of my favorite steps because we can get the lines just the way we want it before we use our markers. Like I mentioned before, we're using our alcohol-based Art for Kids Hub markers. And if you have the same set, you can use the same colors. I'll call out the numbers, but you can also use a different brand and it will work just great. You can also use something completely different, like just continue using colored pencils. Another thing you can do though, if you're using a different brand, is have a sheet of paper next to you, a scratch sheet of paper, and you can test the colors before you use them on your drawing and make sure you pick out the color that you want to use. You can also create a swatch. This one's really old. I need to make a new one. But this is all of the colors in our Art for Kids Hub set. And I took the extra time to just make a little sample of each marker and then numbered it with the number that's on the cap so that I can easily pick it from here. Also, be sure to use the same paper that you draw on. So this is a Canson piece of paper, just so that it matches closer to what you want to use. We're going to go through the steps one at a time on one flower, and then we'll speed it up for the rest. But first we're using the 15 red, and we're just going to fill in all of the main shapes. Next I'm going to use 35 yellow to color in the center. And now that the first layer is dry, I'm switching to the number 2. This is a darker red. We're going to add our second layer, and we're going to add shading to start making the flower more 3D. First, we'll start with the center, and I'm going to add just kind of a dot texture for the stamen. Then we're going to start at the bottom of each petal, and we're going to pull up and away so that you get these cool little spikes for the shadow texture on each of the petals. Then on these second petals over here, we're going to add the shadow right next to the first row. Then we can pull up and out from the center of each petal. Once that second layer of shading is dry, you can add a third layer to even darken it more if you want. Now, even just with a little bit of shading, it looks so much more realistic. I'm going to switch to the fine tip of my same number 2 marker, and we're going to add little spikes on the center of the flower. Now let's switch to our black marker on the fine tip, and we're going to add that same dot texture for the center of our poppy. Next, I'm switching to my pink Prismacolor pencil. Instead of using white, it might be a little too bright, so I thought we could try pink. But we're going to add little highlights to the top of each of our petals. And you can start at the top and press firm, and then towards the center of the flower, we can press lighter. We're just going to draw little highlights where we think the light would shine down on each petal. And we want to give it a little texture too. Poppy flowers kind of have this rippled petal. They're not perfectly flat. They got a lot of texture to them. And if you want, you can use a darker red pencil to sharpen up the edges of the petals. You can also use that to add a little more shading. And if you want, you could darken the shadows or add more contrast by using a black colored pencil. You don't want to press too hard though, because this will make your flowers look really dark. But you can do it to add a little more contrast to your flowers, making them look even more 3D. And we did it. There's our first poppy flower. It looks really cool. Now we're gonna repeat all of those same steps for this one and also our little buds. And this part I'll speed up, so remember to pause the video and take time to finish your drawings. You could also rewind the video and watch this again to do the second flower. All right, let's speed things up. There's our second flower all finished with the same steps. Now let's color in the buds. We'll use basically the same steps for these as well. So first layer with the 15 red, we'll color them in solid, and then we'll go ahead and color in all of the stems and leaves with our first green layer. I used 174, this is a really light green for that first layer. Next I'm using 48, this is a darker green, and we're gonna come down on the right side of each stem to add that little shadow line. So we'll have one side of the stem lighter and then the other side darker. Then I'm gonna use this to also just color in the leaves, mostly solid, but we'll leave some of the light green showing through for the highlights. Let's also add a second layer with our dark red on top of each of the buds. I'm gonna start at the base and then we'll pull up so we get little spikes of shadow coming up to the top on each one. Then we can use our black colored pencil to sharpen the edges. We can also darken in and add contrast to the shadow. Right at the base, press hard and then lighter towards the top. And if we're imagining the light coming from the top left, we can darken the bottom right side of the bud. You can also add those little petal lines in too. We lost those when we colored that over with our red marker. And don't forget to add highlights on your little buds with the pink colored pencil. And last, I'm gonna use the black colored pencil to sharpen the edges for our stems and also the leaves. You can also use the black colored pencil to add a little shadow on the stem, the top of the stem where it goes into the bud, and then press lightly as you go down until you fade out completely. All right, we're gonna speed things up, but remember to pause the video and take extra time to finish your drawing. We did it, we finished drawing and coloring our poppy flowers and they turned out awesome. I'm sure your drawings look really cool too. Now remember, it's not important that your drawing looks exactly like mine. I hope you change your drawings. The most important thing is to have fun and practice. You could add more flowers, like tons of flowers, and fill your entire page. You could also add these little buds. You could also add a lot more leaves and finish the whole background. I really do hope that you had a lot of fun following along with me and drawing these poppy flowers, and we'll see you later, art friends. Goodbye.